actual central place. Wow.
Yeah, right. I actually
The parking is free for 2 hours unless needed. So really, first come, first free.
So somewhere along here, there was a man that did woodwork we called Grandpa Caswell.
Right at the corner here, I think.
Yeah, I was just gonna
He
say
was
that.
he was a smoker. He also collected stamps, and I spent some time with him looking at the stamp collection and stuff.
I still have a jewelry box that he made
Okay.
that he gave to me.
And right next to him, Dr. Wallace bought the house.
Right.
Right next to Caswell, yeah.
This is where Wallace's lived.
It's kind of changed.
Yeah.
Just a little. Well, yeah, we left here in, well, yeah, it
I
was,
was 8 years old, and I'm going to be
60
59 years ago.
yeah, 59 years ago.
So
Yeah.
we left. Now, Jim Fry used to live in a house on that street.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. And this old garage was where Mr. Kaz. Oh, and look at the pallet.
No, I don't think so. I think that garage belongs to that corner.
And they were here. He was
He
here.
was here.
Here. Okay.
Yeah, his
Yeah.
house is here.
Here. Right. Okay.
So that might have been his head.
I was going to say these tear down hedges were all over.
There still are.
Yeah. So it was on the corner. Yeah. On this block at the corner.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I do remember having it shown to me that that's where.
I wonder if somebody lives in here or somebody just keeps it mowed. Oh no, it's all sprouted up.
Oops. Probably
Sorry.
about to go.
Mrs. Thorne
Yeah.
lived in the third house up the street here from like 2 houses up from ours.
And Jerry Ruber lived in the one next door to us.
Right.
And
That's where we used to steal rhubarb. And there was this huge rhubarb patch, and so we'd sit in the rhubarb patch and eat the rhubarb.
Excellent.
did you take a little bucket of sugar with you?
No,
No.
just ate it straight. I do like rhubarb straight.
But when I was a kid, I remember having a bucket of sugar and sticking it in and then eating and then sticking it in and eating.
I didn't show you that. It's interesting that the house they built there is something of the style of the house.
I know. I thought there was a business building there.
It is. It's a business building.
Yeah.
You can see the sign. They've got a sign on the corner there. And but that was where it was.
Yeah.
This one.
No, we moved into a house that was on this corner. It was a rental house, and it was smaller than that building, and yeah, like we got some pictures of all of us in the front yard.
Front yard,
there.
yeah.
Well, you weren't there very long.
Well, 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah. Past now, pretty fast.
Yeah, you see, we lived here. I started in grade 3 down at South School, which is 2 blocks down
grade
here.
4.
And you went to grade 4. And then the next year, they changed the boundaries for the school. We all went to Central School
Right.
the next year.
Right.
So we went all the way down to quite a bit further away to Central School. And I had a really bad year. And then we moved 2 blocks over there. And Dad went and talked to the principal, who had been my teacher.
Yeah, who loved you.
In South School, and she said, "Oh, he can go back here." So I went back, and I had the same teacher in grade 3 and grade 5 in the same school down here, which is one of the reasons why I didn't go to the same school 2 years in a row until I was in grade 8. That was the first time I was the second year in the same building in a row.
It was a Central Park or something, wasn't it on
On
this
the other
block
side.
too?
No,
it was on
on the
that
other
side?
side, yeah.
Okay.
And was that all woods down there?
Yeah, it was. We could come back.
Let's
along
come
there.
back on that one.
Did you ever hear about Doug meeting Lane Spencer at Juniper Lodge up here?
No.
She was waiting up at Juniper Lodge years later, and Doug knew her, and she didn't know Doug. And Doug even know which of the twins she was.
Yeah, because there were 2. Lynn and
There were
Lane.
2, Lynn and
Yeah.
Lane, and
Yeah.
he knew it was Lane,
Yeah.
and yet she didn't know it was him.
Oh, wow.
Doug's got this memory for people that
Yeah.
is quite amazing.
Yeah, it truly is. And there used to be a Daryl that lived across here. What was his last name?
Oh, yeah.
Don't want. There's the Armory building. It's still there.
Yeah, it's part of the library now.
Okay.
This street was special because they had crabapple trees in the boulevard on both sides of the street, all the way up and down the street.
And only God would remember that.
Well, we used to spend a lot of time in those crabapple trees.
They took out the bay. I mean, the bay was
Was
new.
a new building, yeah.
Yeah, it was a brand new building when it was
After,
over here.
quite a while after we moved into Red Deer, it was a new building. So.
Yeah. The first building with an elevator or an escalator or something.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was. Yeah.
I remember coming to Red Deer and going in that on an escalator there. It was scary.
So did this burn down at one time?
Yes. And I was in it when it started.
You were in it, what?
When it started, I was at an Explore meeting, and it was winter. Seems to be, it might have been January.
It was January, I think, or February.
Yeah, and one of the ladies had gone out, like there would be 20 girls probably in the group and 3 leaders.
Yeah.
And one of the ladies had gone out to the bathroom. And I guess she discovered this fire. She very calmly walked in, closed the door behind her, and she says, "Okay, girls, it's time to everybody go get your coats on and your boots on, and I'll meet you all up at the doorway." And she counted us all out, and she told us all to run home as fast as we could. And of course, by then the fire engines were all pulling up, and I could remember running home. And B. Irving, Bill was away. B. Irving happened to be having tea with Mom, and of course I go storming in there. Guess what? Guess what? The church is on fire. Well, of course that set everybody off, and she comes running down. She was gonna try and get in to get Bill's gowns.
So he was the minister.
He was the minister, but he was out of town. And somebody, I can remember afterwards, said to him, "Boy, were you ever lucky to be out of town?" And boy, what an something about like. And it was some other church that he said, that's what this church needs too, is,
McDougall, actually.
McDougall, yeah.
So what's all that wall of building down there with the red top?
Oh, that's was the co-op center. That's where the downtown co-op was. But that was built all after you were there. That used to be railway tracks over there when you were there.
Yeah.
And we used to play on that hill all the time.
Oh, yeah, right.
And we'd run
Yeah.
like the kids do below our house. When we'd run roads down it, and we'd build them so that the dinky cars would turn on the roads and make it down on their own.
I remember falling coming down there and hurting my wrists.
And we also used to ski on there a little bit.
Yeah, right.
Big hill.
Oh, big hill.
Well, that one school looks exactly the same as it did when I was
Except they've added on to it.
Yeah.
So this building actually ended right there.
Yeah.
See, right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And that was the only school that I actually went 3 years in a row to.
Intermediate school.
7, 8, and 9.
9, yeah.
Oh.
It was called the junior high school then.
Yeah.
And so when the school's over there, that was that grade 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the school right there was 4, 5, and 6, and the school in behind was 1, 2, 3.
So you went there for grade 4.
Or grade 4, yeah.
So I was thinking that this school here was only 5 and 6 because there were 2 floors.
Yeah, it could be.
And I can remember like the grade 5s were downstairs and when I was there for grade 5 and 6.
Beside the,
Okay. I don't think
I
I
think-
remember that.
well, I went to it for industrial
you
arts.
You would have.
And so the old Castle School probably was out in here somewhere.
Yeah, right. That's what I thought.
You were noticing the barbed wire?
Oh, yeah.
Down a bit from the corner? It was across the street.
It was across the street, right? It's gone.
Oh, it's been gone for years.
Oh my gosh. Well, what about the Safeway? There used to be a Safeway along here too.
I think it was right on the corner.
Oh, so
Do you think?
I'm not sure.
I think it was more.
More down that way a little bit?
Yeah, like maybe across there.
It could be. I can't
Yeah.
remember exactly what was beyond it. never went beyond it. I mean, never cared about what was beyond
it.
So it's like a single screen.
Big screen.
Yeah. And westerns.
Oh, all kinds of movies.
All the new ones. What they did was they'd have one movie Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night, and then a new movie would come Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and it changed like that all the time.
But this wasn't the like you get 5 cents and you go to see the movie with popcorn
No, but I'm.
Was a little more than 5 cents by then, but
I think maybe it was 15.
Yeah, it wasn't very much.
No, hardly anything.
I mean, but that was a lot of money for us then.
No.
Yeah, but would they send you down as individual kids?
Oh, they could, yeah. Mom and Dad would send us to the theater.
I can remember Diane Rendell and I taking Leslie, and her little brother was the same age as Leslie. So we decided we'd take the two of them. And, you know, it might have been a Saturday matinee, but...
Yeah, right. Oh, those were the days, I think.
And the days that you got newsreels.
Ah, yes.
Before, because we didn't have television, so the newsreels would come first, and then you'd get a cartoon, and then you'd get the feature movie.
Downtown Red Deer, 1955.
Yeah.
This was probably it then.
How come there's so many people? It's great.
Yeah.
Oh, 1955. You guys might be in the crowd.
That's Gates Avenue.
Oh, the Alberta
Anybody you recognize?
Jubilee.
Yeah, what you recognize is the from the Central Dairy Pool, that great big chimney.
Right.
And then you can see the grain elevators.
I remember Northwest Motors actually. I think Miss Moore was of the family that owned it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I think you're right.
Okay, now look in the crowd and find somebody you know.
Well, we never stood on this corner to watch the parade. We would have been down.
You're not here. Oh, there's a whole school of kids.
And the cenotaph, I remember going to the cenotaph on Remembrance Day. Always we went and we stood down there while they...
So, and that's the train station at the end?
Yeah.
Yep.
On the street coming this way, is that where that Club Cafe was that we used to go to with Grandma?
On the left, it would have been just in.
No, guy trying to get through.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But the theaters weren't there.
That's me on the bike.
What?
That's me on the bike.
Yes.
I think so, yeah. It must have been.
They couldn't find themselves in the picture over there.
Yeah. Okay, there's the
The
theater.
parade.
Okay, and then
They were looking.
Horsley's drugstore is that
We
building
used to
there.
live in Red Deer
So yeah,
years ago.
Club Cafe would have been just in there.
in there, yeah, right.
Yeah. It's still there.
Is the cenotaph still there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But the streets
Yeah.
are paved now.
But you,
Yes.
it's only walking only on this side. The traffic all goes one way down this side.
Oh, look at the green.
Oh, when we first moved to Red Deer,
Yeah.
along here was the milk delivery place where they kept the horses and
Oh, okay.
stuff for milk delivery.
Okay. I don't really remember that, but I do remember coming from the high school, and we would walk along that road there because Shirley Ann Nippleberg lived down that way,
Okay.
and I'd walk with her to this corner, and then I'd cut across the parking lot at Safeway's here,
Okay.
and
Yeah,
then go down the alley to.
I think that was put through while we were here in Red Deer.
Okay,
I think
right.
this was the road at first.
Yeah, but I don't remember it being. But I'm not saying that it wasn't. But it's
Yeah.
just when I was in high school, that's what I remember.
Yeah, you're right. I think later on it was. And the Safeways was there. That's right. I'd forgotten there was Safeways there.
Yeah, and I can remember I used to ride my bike to get Mom's groceries, and I had a basket on my bike. I mean, I probably came down almost every day, or maybe every other day to get groceries from on my bike.
How old were you?
How old was I?
Yeah, that's good.
Well, I got my bike when I was 10. We lived here when I was 17, so it was, some of that time.
Right.
I'm not saying it was all of that time.
Yeah.
After I was 16, I had a car.
Really?
I mean, I could drive. I didn't have a car, but Mom and Dad used to let me
Okay,
have their car.
Let's cross over.
Yeah.
The museum is just a little further up here too.
Oh, yeah.
And it would be a good place to go.
Up in here.
Straight ahead,
Oh,
actually. And on the ahead is park and playground, and then parking for the Golden Age Center and the museum and the aquatic center.
Frogs.
Well,
and,
yeah, this area was the hockey rinks,
yeah,
and the swamp was further down.
down.
And I think they still have trouble with that, with the buildings they built down there.
When you were kids.
It was 11,000 people when we moved to Red Deer.
To Red Deer?
Yeah.
The sign said 8,000, and I can remember saying to Dad, well, how can it be 8,000 and we're here? Oh, 8,006, he would say to me.
I remember 11,000, so
Okay, yeah. That was later on.
But I think it was still only about 35,000 when we left it.
yeah, something like that.
And then I remember when we were at Sylvan Lake coming by and seeing signs that said 65,000. I don't know what it is. Grandpa and Grandma?
They lived right across the street from the slough, or the
They did?
where you guys played.
Okay. And what was their name?
Horn.
Horn. Okay.
Right where all that fencing is down there.
Yeah.
Remember?
So,
there.
so they must have been almost next door to Bingham.
No, down the next block.
Next block.
We can show you where the house was,
Okay.
and Bigham's house would have been in the middle of where that big building was.
The
That
house
big
was here.
building with the blue and white, I think.
Okay.
The house was here a couple of years ago because we came by and saw it. And it looked just like I remember as a child.
Which streets we lived on?
We lived on
The one that
46th
became
Street. We lived on 46th Street at the corner of 49th Avenue.
Okay.
And we live on 48th Avenue at the corner of 47th Street, which is a block
Back
over
that
there.
way.
To our right, over there.
Okay, so give that to me again. The one that we lived in when I was 8 years old, 8 years old, was
Straight down here.
Straight down here.
46th Street
And
and
49th
49th
Avenue.
Avenue.
Okay. 46th.
That was the empty lot we were looking at.
Yeah.
And somebody,
And what happened?
Well, there people on both sides.
a developer bought right next to our daughter and was building a 4-story apartment building. It's still there, right beside where her house used to be.
But she wasn't going to sell to let them
So,
use that land.
so after she died, it got sold and made into a parking lot, I think, for that land.
Because there were two great big apartments on every side, on both sides.
Right.
So that house there is the house that was Wynn's grandma and grandpa's
Okay.
house.
Do you remember the little bridge that used to go across?
No, I don't remember.
Oh, there was
the
a
bridge yet.
path going down here, and there was a little walking bridge across, and that's where Shirley and Kubergis lived. So
Oh,
I used to
okay.
come down there and go across there.
Maud and was it George Horn?
Daniel.
It was Daniel. Maud and Daniel Horn.
Okay.
And Maud Horn had the notoriety or fame of being one of the first women to sit on a jury in Canada.
Oh, wow.
So right where this tall building is where Louise went to grade 4, and it was a separate building.
Come off the road, there's a car coming.
It was a separate building from the school. It was an old 2-story school building, and they built a new South School beside it, which was almost brand new when I was in it, and it's all gone now. Turn left. There's the hotel.
You'd come to this part of town, you'd go up the hill that we went to go to Moxie's. The first flat period there had a service station, and really, when we moved here, there was nothing beyond that.
There was a few houses up there. There was a school. South Hill School was there when we moved. It's still there actually,
Okay.
and that's where Maya and Owen go to school now.
Oh, okay. Okay, I didn't know that.
And the Kiwanis, do you remember Dad being
Yeah.
part of building the Kiwanis house?
But that was just, that was being
They're
built.
still, yeah, they're there.
But that
They're-
Kiwanis was built like
Right on
Dad
the
had-
edge,
But
yeah.
Dad had been here for quite.
So, how's everybody? You had a busy day?
Well, we had a nice tour of Red Deer.
You did, eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here.
And you're heading home?
We are, yeah, but we'll be back in the morning.
Yeah, okay. Past your old
Down
house?
past Horns, past our old place, our old places. We went down 46th Street and then along 48th Avenue, all the way past Central School.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And then up over across the playground in Central School and past the Presbyterian Church and up around the casino and back down 49th Avenue and then across the parks.
That's a long way.
By the Golden Center and the museum towards where the hockey rink used to be and the swimming pool used to be.
Yeah.
Closer, that area. Past Bigham's and
And the little bushes and the little streams and so on in the
Yeah.
middle section there, across
Well-
from Bigham's?
yeah, there weren't streams that
Swamp?
it was swamp.
Swamp, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, across from
He
Bigham.
thought it was a stream too.
Remember the place. It was interesting, the hall that's there, they were actually planning on building when the church burned down. So they continued with the hall and figured out the church building too. So you'll see all of that when we're over there.
What caused the fire?
I think they think that maybe a I'm pretty sure it was 55. It might have been 54, but it was definitely before, like it was in the winter. Probably, yeah, 55. Because we moved there in 53, and it was in that house we lived in until the summer of 55 that we were living in then when the church burned.
The name. And they built this building first, and then they had the Sunday school downstairs, and they had church service in the upstairs
After the fire.
after the fire. Well, they built this first, and well, maybe all Sunday school was here because the theater used to be right across there, and the theater was used for a long time for the church services
After the fire.
after the fire. I'm so proud to feel like I was part of this church, you know, from so long ago, you know, having been part of the old church and then being here while this new one was being built, and then, you know, it was all built, the old one went down
Yeah.
and this one was all built up at the time we lived here.
Well, did Phyllis and Jack, were they prominent at that time?
Well, Dad was a doctor here,
Yeah.
and Mom, no kidding, she was involved in everything that it could be to be the church. Women's missionary thing. I think Mom and Dad at one time were the superintendents of the Sunday school here. You know, they were very involved in the church.
Ah, good. Oh.
Yeah.
And was your dad, like, prominent in not just the church, but like because he was a doctor? Was he?
I honestly, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I honestly feel that, you know, doctors did have kind of a big place in society in
Yeah.
Red Deer, and it's being such a small town, everybody knew everybody.
Yeah.
And I always remember Dad saying to me, you know, you have to be good because you've got to remember who you are. And it didn't matter where I went, I'd tell people my name. Oh, you're Dr. Settle's daughter, you know, like, and so it was important that, you know, we behave ourselves at all times. And
These are all Sunday school rooms.
yeah, they pull
like
out.
they pull out.
Yeah, like,
Probably can still pull one out, eh? I don't know.
I don't want to pull it out.
No.
They've got them all fastened.
Yeah,
maybe.
they do have them fastened in.
They don't want people playing with them.
But think how many hours we spent in here, even with
Yeah.
young people's.
Oh, I was saying we did plays. Even my junior high graduation, I think, was in here.
Okay.
And we did plays on the stage there, and we had dances here.
Lots of
And,
dances.
Yeah, on the stage, and
play
we
basketball.
used to come after school. Well, not with those, with these.
Yeah, with these.
And we'd come after school and play basketball.
Yeah, yeah.
And
You graduated from junior high school?
We did. Yeah.
When I was playing play, Greg had been here. David
Put your
Guswell.
label down.
Thank you. David Guswell was at our church for a while.
yeah, he did.
Placements all over the place, yeah.
That way so I can fit these. Don't block me here, view. Oh my gosh, I'm not very involved in the church to know.
He must have done some temporary here.
Isn't it Lacombe?
He was
For
at
years?
Lacombe for 30 years.
Yeah.
So he was here, like, that was the year after he left Lacombe.
Okay. Was here for a year. I met him in the early days.
Gordon Taylor, he was the guy that was in at Winnipeg.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff Rockfield moved to Toronto.
Yeah, and went to Metropolitan Church there, the gay church.
Oh, yeah.
So here's a Reverend Bell. Were you saying Reverend Bell wasn't here? Or is that a different one?
Reverend Sidney Bell, he was here.
Yeah. Okay, I just thought you said they missed his picture or something.
No, yeah, Dowling. Stan Dowling was
Your friend Fran is here.
Yeah, yeah.
David Lovewell. Yes. Jeff Challoner, he was at Sherwood Park
Oh, okay.
before he came here.
Gee, which one of these faces is going to come to Sherwood Park in a year? Better go down to the end there, those girls. They might be the only eligible ones.
I think I told you that both of our ministers are leaving next spring.
No, I didn't know that. You've enjoyed those ones, so probably part on the
Yeah, and
congregation.
we haven't had much contact for a year and a half other than
All right.
video.
That's a bit of a problem,
Isn't it?
Lynn Lammers was studying theology in Saskatoon when I was.
Sorry, who was?
This one here.
Continue.
Lynn Lammers.
Boy, they've had a lot of ministers over here, haven't they?
There's a 1-year person, there's a 6-year, there's a...
But see, they overlap too, like, so she would have been here when he was here, and then those two ministers tend to, so they overlapped, you know, those ones overlapped. So there was two ministers at a time,
Ah,
a lot of the time. Or at least a lot of the recent time, I don't know about.
So this guy.
I used to come in here, I had piano lessons from Harold Murgatroyd.
Oh, yeah.
And just after the church opened, and so we'd have the lessons in that room off to the side up there. But I'd get here before him. And of course the church was open, it wasn't locked at all. So I'd come in and sit, and I remember sitting here in the front of the church kind of many times, just contemplating that window and being here. But the organ wasn't here then, it was just a small electric organ.
I'd forgotten how big, like how tall that ceiling is here.
Yeah, it's a big church, eh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't remember ever having.
And there used to be services like at 9:30 and 11.
Yeah, I think so.
And at 7 at night.
Yeah.
And then we'd meet, young people's would meet after that.
Yeah.
And remember how on the evening service they always had prompt you sing song? And people
Right.
would come and call out the number,
Right.
and then they'd play it on the
Right.
thing, and we'd sing. And I can always remember Donnie Irving would sit there, and if nobody spoke, he'd always order, "Guide me, oh thou great Jehovah."
Uh-huh.
You know, and it's funny how you remember things.
That's one that we're in.
And
What
this,
caused that fire, I wonder?
They think it was a short in the organ.
oh, was it? Okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
I heard that it was something to do with a fan.
Well, maybe something with the fan for cooling the organ, but it
Oh,
was
okay.
related to the
The
organ. I
organ.
think.
Okay.
Now, they would find that out, yeah.
Oh, but these are the stages of Gates. Isn't that a neat picture?
Gates Memorial United Church is named after the Reverend Leonard Gates, one of the early Methodist missionaries in Western Canada who held the first services in his home in Red Deer in the year 1884. In June 1887, the congregation was formally constituted, and in 1892, a new church was built on a lot 1 block north of the present building. By 1909, the congregation had outgrown the first church, and a beautiful new Methodist church was built on the present site. In 1925, the congregation entered into the union that brought together the Methodist, Presbyterian, and Congregational churches to form the United Church of Canada. On January 13th, 1955, the Gates Memorial United Church was totally destroyed by fire. In May of that year, a sod-turning ceremony marked the beginning of the construction of the present building, which was dedicated on October 4th, 1956.
That was a quick turnaround.
I remember this annex here opened, like there was an opening door into the main church, and I remember Christmas Eve it being open for people for the service. There you go.
Okay. What's that one?
61, 62 junior choir.
So we were still here.
So Louise is not in this
We
picture
might have
too?
not been in
You were in
junior
the
choir
front
anymore.
row.
then.
I know I was in, yeah, I think I'm in this
Yeah,
picture.
they always
Yeah,
put the
I'm,
stars in the front row.
So we see
I
Doug
recognize
Settle,
you. You're
name,
right
but,
there with the little angel.
oh, Louise Settle, okay, 2 over from Bob. Oh, yeah,
okay, yeah,
Huh.
okay.
yeah, 2 over
Isn't that
from
right,
Bob.
Bob?
and
Yeah,
Louise.
I knew I was, I thought I was there.
Oh,
I
you
don't
got
think
me.
I might have been in these other ones though.
No, I don't know if I'm in the other ones
Picture
either.
of those names because I've got it at home and I was looking at it and I was thinking, oh, I know who's, but then I couldn't think
You
of their
think the names are
names.
readable?
I don't know, I'll take them.
Harold's in the front row. Unless it's Dawn, by mistake. Yeah, Dawn's in the behind.
Don?
Dawn Irving,
Oh,
2 beside Mrs. Murgatroyd, in the same row, tall boy.
Has my picture and his name.
Oh, well, I'm not responsible, so I don't think I can fix it. It's just devastating how small our congregation is now and
How small is it?
our membership. Well, on the records we have about 500, but attending like Easter and Christmas is 160 when people come with families, but our standard is about 120. So, yeah. Yeah.
And the things that we used to fill the church 3 times in a Sunday.
Yeah, I know. And weddings, there was like 4 on a Saturday. And now we have like 4 a year, maybe. Yeah, it's really sad. I only know this because I go through the history as, you know, I'm the administrator and that. I've only been coming for 6 years now. I've transferred over here. I used to go to Calgary, so I used to live in Calgary now, but.
So we left in 1962.
Oh,
A
okay.
little while ago.
Yeah.
Well, this is when Stuart Jackson lived with us. He was saying
Oh.
he couldn't remember when Stuart lived with us, and I was saying, well, he's still home. But I was in grade 11, Stuart was in grade 12 that year. So I graduated in 72, so it would have been the spring of 71, February to June that he lived with us. February till the summertime.
I was working at Burns Foods that summer.
Summer, yeah.
Overnight,
Yeah,
and sleeping
yeah.
in the daytime.
Yeah.
And playing tennis at
So
noon.
apparently
Well,
he
he
missed
left
a
in
few
the
things.
summer, but I don't remember how quickly he left after school.
And when he left there, why was he with you?
He was with us because his parents had already moved to Ontario.
Okay.
And he wanted to finish high school in Calgary. And he started out living with a different, I don't know if it was a family or just a couple, with Snyder's from Pleasant Heights Church. He lived with them, and then things got not so good. So he asked Dad if he could come and live with us. And I'm trying to remember, maybe Dad had even offered it originally, but they'd already set up for him to live with these other people.
Okay.
So he ended up moving into our place partway through the year, from Snyder's place to our place.
Okay. And then it
I
just,
didn't
the
ever know
connections
that.
just built over time and
We
he came
were in
back.
South America at the time.
Yeah,
And I
well, so
couldn't
then,
remember, necessarily Stuart.
the next year, or in 73, he and I corresponded some after, and in 73, he was traveling over to England. He was going to go over for a cousin's wedding or something in England in April, and he wrote to me and said, why don't you come over to England with me? And I was just finishing a year of university, and I said, well, I don't have any money. I can't go over to whatever. So, but then he and James decided to go over, so I worked for the summer and went over in September and met he and James McGowan over in Europe and traveled with them between September and December. That's yeah.
And I was supposed to meet those two at Canada House on a specific date, and I didn't show up because I was with my buddy.
Yeah, you were supposed to meet James and Stuart before I went over there.
Yeah, and my buddy was French and he hated England, so we all went over to France right away and missed the date.
So that was my opening line to Lauren when, you know, in Christmas Eve, I had met Lauren a time or two, but I didn't really know him. Christmas Eve, he was sitting behind our family in the pew with his sister and his mom and whatever. And as we got up to leave church, I said to him, James and Stuart told me that you were supposed to meet him in London and you didn't show up. What happened? That's the opening line that got our relationship going.
Very good.
Always good to start with a question.
So were you worried about him showing up to your wedding?
Who?
Lauren.
Showing up at my wedding, whether he would or not.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly. It didn't show up in London.
He had a history.
Well, that's the beginning of the history. So that was Christmas Eve. Then he says to me, we're getting the old Kairos back together for a New Year's Eve party. Do you want to come? And I didn't know if he was asking me for a date or just inviting me or whatever. And I said, well, maybe. But I had already, no. And then I waited that week to see if he'd phone me to ask me about going. And he didn't. So then I invited my girlfriend to come and be at our parents' family party for New Year's Eve. And then he calls the day before or that day and says, you know, well, do you want to go to the Kairos thing? And I said, yeah, okay, but I've got my girlfriend too. So he picked us both up and drove us to this party. And within 20 minutes of being at the party, he says, oh, I've got this friend, what was her name, Patty or whatever.
Patty.
I have to drive her somewhere else. And he took off.
I don't know how you ever stayed connected. You seemed irresponsible in those days.
Well, and then that night at the end of the party, he says, well, do you want to go skiing together? So the next day, we were going to go to Baskapoo or something to go skiing. I can't remember. We ended up going tobogganing with Betty and Wayne Plimmer, who she was dating at the time. So we went tobogganing with them instead. And back. Anyhow, from that day on, we saw each other probably 6 out of 7 days a week, despite the fact he was working long, terrible hours. And well, again, on the weekend, the dates were for me to go help his family collate magazines.
Oh, so you didn't go into this without knowing.
Yeah, what I was getting.
She wasn't blind.
To the old church.
Oh, okay.
So they had the plans all ready for the hall.
Okay. Look down.
Come past so I could get them to take a picture of all of us.
Love you. Love you.
Look right at you. Look right into my eyes, Louise.
I love you.
Okay, there's 5 of them there. There's 5 of them there. One of them will be perfect.
Okay.
That's where Donald Irving is buried, and many of the Horn family. So Wynn's grandparents and aunts and uncles were children from the Indian residential school that died in the flu epidemic back in 1919. And they were put in here. There was just a massive death at the school, and they didn't have enough graves out at the school, and so they put some here. And they didn't put any grave markers on them at the time. So about 5 or 6 years ago, the folk in Red Deer put in grave markers.
They had regular.
What's that?
PDS, what's it stand for?
Provincial Training School. It was the school for handicapped children in the whole province. And so, and then they added Deer Home for adults, and it became the Michener Center. And at one time, it had as many as 2,000 people in it.
That's a small space for 2,000 people.
In the red building and all those little buildings around. We stayed here.
There's many parking spaces in here available. It all spread out on a picnic table, and she had tablecloths, she had real silverware, she had crystal glasses, she had her china, beautiful set, and she had casseroles and meat.
I don't remember that.
And I don't even remember who the people were. You know, we didn't know them very well, but it was some patient's dads.
So what did you call it?
Probably from a girl.
Just the hill.
The hill.
This over here is Piper Creek now, not Waskasoo. Waskasoo Creek joins. I mean, they join together down here.
Okay. So Piper comes this way.
Yeah.
Waska-
other
better on
side.
the down.
I remember the
Years
other
doing
side.
studies on how to rebuild, and the government puts it off. So on, but it's way too small as a usage.
It was different for us because we were girls too. Mom did not encourage us to go into any of these back trails or anything because we were girls.
Interesting though, like we would ride on our bicycles over here and dig in this hill, but we never went up the valley there. Never. Not open. Not open.
So you ate with your grandmother there?
Well, when she would come from Edmonton to Red Deer.
Yeah, we'd go there. The day we moved from Red Deer to Calgary, we packed up all our stuff and the moving van left, and then we came and had lunch at the
Where are you?
cafe.
Well, I wouldn't have remembered that.
Yeah.
Restaurant, we'd order takeout, bring it back home. So, but never confined us at all to restaurants. We did our thing regardless of what's going on with the world.
There's 2 lots that are blocked off.
Gas station?
I think it was a lube shop,
Oh, okay.
as I remember, not Mr. Lube, but something else.
Yeah, it was something like that.
I don't see any sign on it, so
right down
whoever's
there.
got it doesn't worry about paying extra taxes on it. There's no sign for selling it.
Down there, this was like a Jiffy thing or something. Like it was the same idea as the Mr. Lube, but
Yeah.
it wasn't a Mr. Lube.
If I understood it correctly, that when Mom and Dad sold the house here, they ended up holding a second mortgage on the house. And then the people quit paying the first mortgage. Dad ended up making some of the mortgage payments just to keep the bank from taking it over.
I don't know. That
Until,
could be.
did you hear that too?
Yeah.
Until they ended up selling, and then Mom and Dad got their money. Or
I don't even think Mom and Dad ever got their money.
Oh,
All
okay,
of
that
it.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we did.
Yeah, but that created problems in Calgary because then, like, we had that little trailer when we moved to Calgary, and the people that Mom and Dad bought the house from in Calgary, they came and took over our trailer from Calgary because Mom and Dad had somehow not been making payments on the house in Calgary because I think they'd been dealing with this one.
Oh, I didn't
I
know
didn't
any
know
of
that.
that.
No, I
Yeah, no, we bought them from a family named Sawyer in Calgary, that house on Northbound Drive.
Yeah.
And I remember the Sawyers coming one day and taking a look at the trailer and then hooking it up and pulling it away.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
So, and Mom never told us
Yeah.
any of that stuff, but I just basically assumed that had something to do with it somehow. That it was something to do with the payment for the house.
I know, it's amazing the things that one is oblivious to.
Yeah,
That-
yeah. Well, and Mom and Dad never spoke about things
No.
like that to us. Things
No.
like that were discussed after the kids going to bed or behind closed doors, whatever. They didn't talk about it.
So, but you remember Carrie too about them holding a second mortgage on this house.
And what was really funny was that when Eric and I bought Northmont Drive, Mom and Dad were trying to sell Northmont Drive, and it sat there for 3 or 4 months not selling, and there was no furniture in the house. So Eric, we were having trouble finding a place. We wanted to move from down by the hospital up to there. So Eric went to Dad and said, if we moved our furniture into our place, could we rent it for the amount of the mortgage, and we'll pay you whatever the mortgage is. Well, Dad jumped at the chance and said, great. The next thing we know, Dad's saying, after about 2 months of getting moved in, getting all settled, she says, "Oh, I've got an offer on the house."
Like you need to go and have your appointment.
Our hearts just broke. And then Eric found out that Dad was taking a second mortgage because the people didn't have a down payment.
So on that house too, after having the experience in Red Deer.
And Eric then was flipped. He says, "Well, why wouldn't they let us do it if they're going to do it and sell it that way?"
Yeah.
We could pay the mortgage and we could pay them, $100 a month extra until the thing. So then Eric went to Dad, and he was kind of mad about it. And I was thinking, "Oh, brother." And anyway, Dad said, "Oh, did you want to do that?" And so Eric said, "Well, of course we did." And so then I think Dad had to pay the real estate people out. But we paid it. And then Dad was so surprised because we took over the final payment and we said, "Okay, here's the final payment." We showed him, and Eric had calculated the interest all down, and Eric had it all on a thing. And Dad was so surprised that we had actually paid him back on that thing because he figured that, if other people could get.
Yeah.
And I can always remember Dad being so surprised that we paid it all back with interest.
Yeah.
When I was about 7, my friend Don Lindsay, who lived there, we heard that the gentleman that lived in this house had died. So Don and I went into the house and saw him on the bed, like dead.
Oh, really?
As 2 7-year-old kids.
Yeah. No, I remember he had a dog. I think, and when I was going over to Corstad's one time, this dog jumped out at me, and that was like, I was maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years old at the time, and this dog was a big dog, and it jumped at me. And I've been scared of big dogs to this day because that dog jumped at me when I was a little kid. I used to go, we didn't have a television at all. They at least had a television, but I used to go over there and watch Lassie.
You got to tell the story about Mom tying you to the tree again.
Oh, I used to be a wanderer.
Oh yeah.
And so if I got out of the house, I would wander next door to the roomers, and I'd wander in and say, "Hi, room," or Louise said I'd wander down the street because there was a little boy on the corner, and I'd wander.
Sorry,
it's okay.
An appointment here.
Yeah, of course. So anyway, there was a little boy on the corner, and Louise said I used to go down and visit him too. So anyway, Mom was getting tired of me wandering like that, so she tied me to a tree. She put me on, or didn't tie me to a tree. She put me on a leash on the clothesline, so I could walk.
A time to run a tree, and then if you were in the backyard playing, you were on the clothesline.
I've got a picture of me on the clothesline, I think, at home.
Down there.
Yeah, where that blue and yellow building
is.
Yeah.
Well,
Take care of that. Let's get a picture. You see how they got the steps going up to the door?
Yeah.
And I think that's it. It was stucco, but the stucco was a different color.
Yeah.